My name is Chris Gethin, and what I aim to bring to you is inspiration, motivation from clients, everything that will allow you to evolve as a human being. Oh, hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Chris Gethin podcast. And I have a very special tall guest here. Actually, he's shorter now, he sat down. DrSid, is that how you'd like me to introduce you?
I think that's appropriate.
DrSid. So I've been looking at a lot of your content that is online. Some of it I'm like, wow, you put that out there. Some of it's a little bit controversial.
Yep.
You know, I was sending some to my wife. I was like, check this out, you know. But I really love the content.
Thank you, man.
It's
Thank
really
you.
good to see somebody of high esteem that's a doctor that is putting out such a versatile range of content, because I was thinking, what am I going to interview you about? Because you talk about this, you talk about that, so many things, you know. So anyway, can you introduce yourself?
Sure.
And a little bit about your background? And
So my name is Dr. Sid. My full name is Dr. Siddhant Bhargav. I finished my MBBS, which is medicine, about 5.5 years ago. Decided that I didn't want to do medicine anymore, so I started a nutrition company called Food Darzee, which now, touch wood, has become the largest subscription-based health company in the country. That's what I got well known for right in the beginning. About 2 years ago, I started making a little bit of content, realized I was the only doctor making content in India. So I had the first mover's advantage there again, and the rest is history. I've been making a couple of more products in the diabetes space. I've seen you making a lot of content with the CGM on. I've created a non-invasive CGM, which is currently undergoing clinical testing right now. I'm going to send one to you very soon.
wow, non-invasive.
Non-invasive, faster than the CGM, no lag periods, cheaper. The battery life lasts much longer, so that's what I've been focusing on now as well. So doing some interesting things, and yeah, really happy to be here on this podcast. You're a legend. I've seen you, not that I'm trying to make you feel old, but
You don't have to, I know I am.
I've seen you since I was 15, 16 years old, and I've always thought, damn, he's ripped. And then, damn, he's got so much information, and then finally getting to meet you live. So the pleasure is all mine. Thank you for having me
Now
here.
I'm getting to learn from you. You're quite the entrepreneur as well. So let's go back a little bit. So you started off with Food Darzee, and that's where you got a lot of your recognition.
Yeah.
So that is a food subscription model.
Yes.
Is this for anybody, or is it for diabetics in particular, or you know what? Paint us a picture of what it looks like.
So it is for everybody. It started off as a purely keto-based subscription model.
Right.
So 5 years ago, the keto wave was just hitting India mainstream, and I was a proponent through and through. Like, I'd been on keto for about 2 years before and then 3 years after, because I was diagnosed with lupus when I was about 20 years old. So since it's an autoimmune inflammatory condition, I had to sort of go on to something that reduces my inflammation, and keto was very helpful. Now, what I found over there was that Indians typically are all, I wouldn't say obese, but overweight, yes. Every single person, whenever somebody says, I need to get healthy, what they're actually meaning is, I need to lose weight. So that's when it hit me that there is no service that connects a dietitian or a nutritionist with the actual food, because the hold up is the food, right? If your diet is monotonous, if you don't enjoy your food, you're not going to follow it, and if you can't follow it, you'll never get your result. So that's when it hit me, let's start something like that. And then the keto wave just came in, and I was like, let's do keto. So my company started as purely a ketogenic diet-based company. Got a lot of flack initially because people were like, no keto and this keto and that keto, you're going to die, it's going to kill you. And I was like, no, let's put a little credibility in. Let's put it in perspective that a doctor is actually recommending it. Of course, I was a 22-year-old doctor back then, so nobody really believed me. But then as things kept progressing, the company grew, and now we do everything. So right from keto to a low carb to paleo to vegan to balanced to home style stuff, everything under the sun comes under Food Darzee. And now it's about people who want to lose weight, people who want to bulk up, people who are diabetic, people who are pre-diabetic, people who just want to eat healthy. Everything under the sun my company does on subscription.
That's awesome. That's really good. Yeah, like I remember when the keto craze hit here as well, because I know there was a lot of people like in the bodybuilding industry that was completely bastardizing it, you know, just thought that gave them the justification to eat anything, fat and lots of it, way too much of it, and causing health issues because of it as well. But I'm glad that you mentioned that being like a non-inflammatory diet. Like I've got my father on a keto diet at the moment. He got diagnosed with kidney cancer. This is going
Oh,
about 3 years ago. Had the kidney removed. He's absolutely fine now. He's in the clear. But want to keep him in the clear, and
yep.
just kind of follow that as opposed to feeding that cancer with
With sugar.
yeah, with sugar,
Yep.
exactly. So with Food Darzee as well, then do you offer like the macro breakdown or
Absolutely.
calorific breakdown specifically for that individual as
Yes,
well? Wow,
every
that's
single
great.
individual is given their macro breakdown, their calorie breakdown, and each individual is assigned their own personal nutritionist whose job is to change the macros up and down, calories up and down, guide them, give them what they can eat here and there. So it's a very wholesome, personalized experience. And a lot of people like that because you get meals 4 times a day delivered to your house, and all of these meals are 100% calorie counted. We're probably the only ones who actually pay a lot of attention, and I can say this uh, with positivity because, of course, we're the largest in the country, but nobody else trusts the others' calorie counting techniques because we measure the food twice before serving it to an individual. So I know that if I'm saying it's 45 grams of protein with 160 calories or 180 calories, pardon my math, that's what it's going to be. And that's what the results show because I'm counting every calorie for you.
That's awesome.
Yep.
And do these meals show up frozen so that person can put them in a freezer, and have them stored like that, or do they come out fresh and then that person puts them in a freezer and
Yes,
they have
they
like a
come out
week's worth?
fresh. No, so they come in every single day, once in the morning, once in the evening, and they come in fresh. They have to put them in the fridge, get them out, heat them up before consuming, and then eat it. That's it.
Funny. That's awesome. That's
And
really,
the
really
best
good.
part about the food here is that whenever I was on a diet, or anybody is on a diet, or let's not call it diet, a lifestyle choice, or whatever these people call it nowadays, uh, the food gets boring.
Yeah.
Because if I told you that you had to eat grilled chicken and rice every single day, and I mean, people who really need to do it will get it done, but the average population doesn't care enough.
For sure.
Like, health is not number one on the priority list. It's probably 3 or 4 because there are too many things to worry about. So here I make sure that the food is varied and it's tasty. So even a normal individual would probably get like a butter chicken or a paneer makhni or a mini pizza or like burgers and things like that. But I just make sure that I'm portioning them out perfectly while making sure that I'm hitting fats, protein, and carbs. And that's what people like then.
That's great. And I'm assuming the majority of these are like Indianized recipes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Majority of it.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that's the one thing that I came up as a roadblock. I came out with a book some years ago, and everybody from India would say, "But where's the Indian recipes?" I'm
Yeah.
like, "No, you have to follow mine."
Yeah.
It didn't work.
didn't
So I
work.
was like, just like with any relationship, I'm going to have to compromise here, and come up with some Indianized versions, and it worked then. So one of the things that I wanted to touch on as well, because I noticed on your content, you have some pieces that talk about sleep, and I'm a huge proponent of getting good quality sleep.
Yeah.
Sleeping early, adhering to your circadian rhythm, and getting good quality sleep. And I noticed like India is such a culture that likes to stay up really late.
Yep.
I'll have calls saying, "Hey, do you want to meet for coffee at like 10 o'clock at night?" I'm like, I'm sleeping for
Yeah.
like 3 hours by then.
Yep.
Do you feel that this has led to the crisis of diabetes increasing in this country? Creating some sort of insulin resistance through higher cortisol levels and lack of sleep, and obviously stress on top of that. Do you think that's one of the proponents?
I think definitely it's one of the proponents. I mean, I would want to go ahead and say that the Indian population is genetically predisposed to diabetes because there are certain hotspots around the world where, see, diets are bad everywhere. I mean, I'm not going to say this country has a better diet because they don't. In fact, certain countries just break the norm that loading yourself with carbohydrates over and over again is going to cause diabetes because look at Japan. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
so I'm not going to get into what causes it, but sleep definitely. Like if you think about it, India becomes the cheapest form of labor, and now you can extrapolate the situation from being laborers to executives high up also. We're working a lot more compared to other parts of the world. We're working till later, and you still need that time to chill. Now, the time to chill comes in late at night because you've been working till 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening, and you're sleeping less, you're hustling more. A lot of idle time is also spent, and people are genuinely sleeping less. In fact, it's become cool in your 20s to sleep less and work more, and I don't know where that comes from.
Yeah, it's entrepreneurship
It's
spirit. People like Gary Vee No
Yeah.
hate Gary Vee, but
Yeah.
burning a candle at both
Yeah,
ends.
yeah. And it's really bad because what most people don't realize, and then they start blaming it on the age that I'm getting older is why I can't be productive. Even if you were older and you slept well, you would be productive. I mean, if you're not letting your body enter deep sleep, and it's just not going to work out for you.
Yeah, I totally get that because was one of those people that would sleep 3 to 4 hours a night. When I was living here the first time, and I was like, yeah, I'm still going to out-train you.
Yeah.
I'm still going to outwork you.
Yeah.
Burning a candle. And then I realized I had mold toxicity. Well, I got diagnosed with mold toxicity, really focused on sleep, had to go through a detox protocol. But what I realized as soon as I started sleeping more, I was like, wow, I don't have the joint
Yeah,
pains that I
yeah.
once had. I thought that was from training heavy. Everything felt better. I felt younger. I felt more alive. I felt like I'd
Absolutely.
got out of this fog. So
Absolutely.
sleep is my best friend now.
In fact, with sleep, I think people spend so much time in figuring out what the best exercise routine for them is, what their best food routine for them is. Nobody figures out what their best sleep routine is. Because essentially, sleep is broken down into cycles of an hour and a half, right? 90 minutes approximately. Now, each person requires a different number of cycles. Like for me, say 8, 9 years ago, I needed a good 6 cycles, which is 6 into an hour and a half, which is 9 hours of sleep. Today, I require maybe 5 cycles. But if I get up between cycles, I'm very groggy and my productivity is hindered. So I think people need to spend just a little time, maybe a week, 2 weeks, in figuring out what their sleep cycle tells them and then optimize it. I think you can optimize your sleep cycle very, very well.
Yeah. Do you have any tips for routine on how people can get to sleep a little quicker in the evening? Because some people say, I just lie there, and then other people say, and then I wake up during the night, so they have disrupted sleep.
Yeah, I think getting to sleep it's two. Like one is physiological and one is pathological. Pathological, yes, there are conditions where you can't get yourself to sleep, and something like as simple as melatonin does help induce sleep. But physiologically, put your phone away. I mean, we're tired of saying this, and easier said than done, right? Because even we check our phone right before we sleep, but it's just the way it is. And part two would be people keep staying up awake. It's suddenly 5 a.m. and now at 5 a.m. you need to get to office at 9 a.m. So you've slept 3 hours, but you'll ensure you keep repeating this the next day. Why not stay awake one whole day, set your rhythm right, and go to sleep at 12 o'clock, at 1 o'clock? Get your sleep cycles in. I never say get your sleep in. I will always say get your sleep cycles in, because what do you need in sleep? You need your body to enter REM sleep. Like REM sleep is where your brain is sort of rejuvenating, and the deepest stage of NREM sleep is where your body is actually rejuvenating. As long as you get enough of both, one cycle short, which you can sort of uh, make up for on a Sunday, I think you're doing your bit. So just get your sleep cycles right. People don't know this. People think that it's important to sleep 8 hours a day only. No, your sleep cycle could say 7, mine could say 9. Get your sleep cycles in.
Right, okay, got it. Well, the opposite to sleep now, I'm going to talk about caffeine a little bit because I love coffee.
I love coffee too.
I'm definitely a coffee snob, but I like to take breaks from caffeine quite a lot because sometimes I'll take pre-workout supplements. There's caffeine there, so then I'm like, well, I'm going to have a decaf coffee.
Yeah.
I found it very, very difficult so far to get decaffeinated coffee here in India. Doesn't seem to be such a thing.
Yeah.
Great to see so many more coffee shops popping up, though. Do you think there is an overconsumption of caffeine here where people aren't taking breaks? Do you see any negative impacts from overconsumption of caffeine? And then what should those break cycles look like?
So I think after talking to people, people think that they're consuming too much caffeine when they're actually not. You'd know, right? Like the physiological limit after which symptoms of acutely consuming caffeine are about 400, 500 milligrams of caffeine. Most Indians think that they're drinking 3 cups of coffee a day. That's probably 200, 250 milligrams of caffeine at best. That is, if they're having 2 espresso shots in each of their coffees. So one, there are no long-term effects of consuming caffeine at suboptimal levels. So put that into perspective. If I had 2 cups of coffee every single day for the rest of my life, nothing is going to happen to me. That's what current research says. Now that's the caveat, right? Research keeps getting better, you have contradictory opinions all the time. So this is what current research is saying. Now if you start क्या बोलते हैं उसको Pre-workouts, if now people are consuming pre-workouts every single day, 2 scoops, 3 scoops, that's when maybe you're getting jittery and your sleep cycles are getting affected, etc., etc. So I think people have made caffeine the enemy for no reason, in my opinion, because most people aren't feeling jittery after consuming 2 cups of coffee. Like they just aren't. Now, if you just had like a big glass of black coffee and you had another 1 hour later, then maybe yes. But in most cases, no. It just doesn't happen. In fact, think about it. Your green teas and your other products that have come in, it's their job to say that caffeine from coffee is bad because how else would they sell? So I just think that most markets are trying to compete with the other market, and that's where the myths come in.
Right. Okay. Got it.
I wouldn't tell anybody to quit coffee. Like
Yeah.
even if somebody told me, I'm trying to get healthier and I'm trying to drink less coffee, I don't want to get into the argument most of the times. But if somebody actually asked me that, do I need to quit coffee to get healthier? I'd say no way.
No,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah, I guess it comes down to the individual. Is that person drinking enough water to deal
Absolutely.
with dehydration that could
Absolutely.
be possibly there with the caffeine? Or is that person dealing with anxiety? Then
Yeah.
maybe, okay,
Yeah.
let's cut it back a
Yep.
little bit. The good thing about India, though, is that those cups are smaller
Are
cups.
small, exactly.
Then you go to the US, it's a bucket,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
free refills
Yeah.
in a lot of those places.
Yeah.
I think that's why most Americans are addicted to those energy drinks. They are everywhere.
Everything
over there.
in America is larger, right? I mean, from the portion sizes to the cups
To the people?
There are no free refills in India. It doesn't work that way. So people just overestimate the amount of caffeine in India. I'm sure abroad they actually would be consuming a lot
for sure,
more coffee.
For sure. They've done a lot of studies, haven't they, where they've had bottomless cups, bottomless bowls, noticing how much more that person consumes,
Yeah.
not knowing that it's just being refilled for
Yeah.
them. So, people think, okay, I've purchased that coffee, I can get a free refill, let me get my money's
Let
worth.
me get my money's worth.
Yeah. Well, speaking of myths as well, what are some of the myths that you have noticed when we're coming to nutrition or anything otherwise from doctors that they tell their clients?
Okay. The first one is not a doctor, but it's actually a very dietitian-based myth.
Okay.
So in India, typically dietitians are people who've studied dietetics, right? They've done their graduation and their post-graduation, and for some odd reason, they believe that weight training causes weight gain. And yes, technically it could, because if you're putting on muscle, you're putting on weight, but that's not bad weight, right? And they target, like a lot of females go to dietitians, a lot of males go to trainers. Like that's the split in India. Males don't
Interesting.
usually go to dietitians. So now, anyways, a female thinks in her head that she's going to become bulky if she lifts weights. And I'm like, no, that's not happening. But the dietitian just pushes that down her throat also that, you need to do cardio and you need to eat less. And they don't talk about protein, they don't talk about lifting weights at all. And I'm like, you need to change your dietitian. So that's one. Two, with respect to doctors, I don't think doctors understand nutrition at all. Like even when we were studying in med school, nutrition was say 100 pages in our textbook, and we completely skipped that because it was never asked in our examination papers. So doctors have no idea how nutrition works. Doctors do not know macro splits. They don't know that macronutrients are carbs, fats, and proteins. So I feel a lot of lifestyle conditions. So if you're a general practitioner, people come to you with obesity, with cholesterol, with high blood pressure, with high heart rates, and a lot of their fixes are nutrition based, and doctors just don't know how to go about that. Another myth is doctors think that proteins actually damage your kidneys, and again, that's not true at all. They think so.
Is this protein from like food sources?
From food sources
Wow.
and from whey protein. Like I just don't know why whey protein gets a bad rap in India when you start your life by drinking whey protein, right? Your mother's milk has whey protein in it. It cannot be, just because it's synthesized in a factory does not mean it's bad. And fun fact, your kidneys have nothing to do with protein. Your liver degrades the protein and your kidney lets out the urea that forms in. So only if you have a predisposed kidney condition, that's the only time you're actually consuming less protein. So why are you telling the masses to consume a moderate or a low protein diet? That you're actually doing India injustice by telling your masses to not consume protein. You're making them less productive. You're making sure that they die early. You're making sure that they're not capable of what a human being can fully perform. So yeah, these are genuine medical practitioners. And in India, a doctor is viewed right on top, and then the entire health hierarchy comes in. And if a doctor starts promoting things which are untrue, I think it just defeats the entire purpose.
Yeah, that's
Weight
true.
training. Doctors, in fact, tell people not to weight train excessively. I mean, why? Of course, you're not going to overtrain yourself, but why do you want people not to weight train? Lifting weights is a good thing. India is not equal to yoga. India can also lift weights. Why is that such a bad thing?
Yeah, it's funny you should say that because, I think absolutely everybody in the world should be doing some type of resistance training
100%.
because as we get a little bit older, of course, we go through atrophy. We
Yeah.
need to ensure that our bones don't become fragile.
Yeah.
Resistance training, even just getting up and down from this seat, is going to be some sort of resistance. That's
Absolutely.
good for our hips, good for our knees. And as you get older, we're losing muscle. We need protein.
You know
You know,
how I trick young girls into actually starting their resistance training journey? So I get a lot of girls who are 18, 19, 20, 21. Typical stuff, right? Like they've put on a little weight, they want to get back in shape, but they want to go out with their friends, eat their food. So my trick is I tell them if you start weight training, eventually your body is going to become more forgiving about eating more calories.
yeah,
And that's
exactly.
when it strikes them that, wow, if I could eat an extra burger each day just because I have more muscle on me, that's a good thing. And I'm like, yes, that's what you're getting to. And then they start lifting weights.
Yeah, because they'll burn it off
They
now
burn it
just
off.
to maintain the muscle that
Exactly.
they've gained.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And I've mentioned this before that you need that protein for your hair, your eyes, your skin, your nails. It's not just for people that
Yeah.
are working out.
Yeah.
You should have that again to prevent atrophy as you're getting older.
And
But
Indians are very, very deficient in protein. Like the biggest myth in India is that dal is a good source of protein. And I've been trying to break that myth for the past 2 years now. Because dal, which is your pulses and your lentils, when you cook them, the fact is that 100 grams of dal has about 20 grams of protein. But one katori or one bowl of dal that is consumed in the Indian diet actually has about 4 grams of protein. And Indians are happy consuming 2 bowls of dal a day, thinking that they're eating 2 bowls of dal. And I'm like, no, you're eating 8 grams of protein.
right, it's because the water sucks it.
Yeah,
Got it. I
exactly.
see.
So a vegetarian Indian is getting in what? zero point 0.5 grams of protein per kilogram body weight, and I'm like, that's not enough.
Right.
And then you complain that 5 years ago I was fit and 5 years later I'm just big. I'm like, yeah, I told you that 5 years ago also, that switch your protein source now. It's no time for dal.
And does this type of diet have, the typical Indian diet, I'd say, have an effect on people's testosterone levels and
I think
estrogen
so.
ratio?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm not so sure about the estrogen ratio, but testosterone wise, 100%. Like we always say, right? A completely idle man is not going to be the best version of himself if he's not lifting, if he's not eating right, if he's just sitting all day in front of a desk. His testosterone levels are definitely lower than somebody who's doing the better version of these three activities. So, for sure.
I think it's a combination of things, and it could be more pro-inflammatory foods,
Yeah.
less sleep, more exposure to electrical devices, spending more time indoors, not
Yeah.
enough sunlight. I'm sure there's a lot of things that's contributing
But
to
I have a
this.
question for you. Like, you, of course, you've been in this space for 20, 25 years now. You probably have read everything that there is to offer. Uh, One question that comes to people's mind is that, we talk about health and we talk about protein and lifting and this and that. But there are so many people who live a perfect life without having to go through any of this. So are they the exception? They talk about, so India has daily wage workers, right? Construction workers, even people living in villages who have no access to protein because protein is expensive. Carbs are cheap, protein is expensive. How do they end up staying ripped and staying so fit even though they're primarily just eating rice and dal? That's it. And I have no answer to this because they break all norms of Western health philosophy. So what do you think about this? Like, why is a person who consumes no protein through the day is still jacked?
I'm assuming it's like their lifestyle, their activity levels. If they're lifting, as part of their job, of course they're going to build muscle. It's their body's way of survival.
Fair
And if
enough.
they're working outdoors, maybe they're getting their hormonal production from the vitamin
Yeah.
D through the photobiomodulation.
Yeah.
That could be it. And maybe out in the villages, they're not exposed to so many Wi-Fi's and EMFs and artificial lights.
Yeah.
That's
Even the food is
penetrating us.
cleaner in the
Yeah,
villages.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And maybe they're not eating out of plastic Tupperware
Yeah.
containers. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You know, each time somebody tells me that I'm not going to consume whey protein because it was made in a factory, I tell them, fun fact, the air you breathe, the water you drink, and the food you eat, technically, all of them were manufactured in a factory. That's
Yeah.
how bad they've gotten.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you see it improving though? Do you see our food improving? Because even when people talk about organic food, at least in India, your land needs to be free of pesticide for about 15 years before it can be labeled as an organic land. But you're flouting laws all the time, and you're not actually growing organic food on pesticide-free land. So, how is it abroad? Do you think things which they classify as organic are actually better for you?
It all depends, what label that you're looking at, because there's various labels out there from the USDA that says organic, and there's others that are purely organic.
Okay.
Much like if you get free range eggs, it's like, yeah, we know that's not organic,
Yeah.
as opposed to something that is humane raised egg. It's very, very different. You have to really look at the labels. I don't know if it's going to improve, because with the overpopulation, we're going to have a continuation of overharvestation
Yeah.
and food wastage. And I think with that overharvestation, obviously our mineral content has gone through the floor, vitamins gone through the floor. We're consuming more antibiotics that's being prescribed to us through food. That's where we're consuming a lot
Yeah.
of these antibiotics. So
Yeah.
hopefully these types of
But
podcasts.
do you pay attention to this? Like you as an individual, do you pay attention to antibiotics?
For
You
sure,
do.
for sure, yeah. Whenever possible, I'm organic, humane ways, wild caught, grass fed. I do various kind of detoxification processes all the time, because I consume a lot more food than the average
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
So I have to try to do whatever I can to balance the lifestyle that I like to live.
What are your maintenance calories? Like you're big, right? So what are your maintenance calories right now?
It's probably around 3,900 at the moment. Yeah. I was just like on a bit of a mass building phase, so I was like 1,000 more than that.
3,900 calories is a lot of food.
Yeah, I know, it makes life miserable.
But then for a person like you, if you ate less, you just drop muscle.
Yeah, I would. At this kind of phase. But like I've been a lot smaller for the past, I don't know, 6, 7 years.
Okay.
Been doing Ironman, triathlon, ultramarathon, stuff like that, and enjoying it. But now I'm doing a couple of video series next year, so I need to pack on the size again. And it's good to take those breaks, because it gives you enthusiasm again.
Yeah.
But then when you're eating all the food, it's like, yeah, I kind of realized why I took a 5-year break from this. You
Yeah.
know?
You know, I actually, before I came here, I wanted to ask you this question, and this is very personal.
Sure.
So, 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer, and it was malignant.
I
So,
wanted to talk about that. Yeah, so good you're answering this question.
so my thyroid was taken off, large part of my lymph nodes were taken off, and now technically I've been on thyroxine for 2 years. Now, I'm on about 300 mcg of thyroxine, which is large because I'm 6'3", my
Yeah.
body guzzles down thyroxine. Now, what's been happening is that my metabolic rate has plummeted so badly that I'm 100 kgs right now, I'm 100 kg, 6'3", but my maintenance calories have gone down to about 1800, and that's just not sustainable for me, because 1800 calories is like this much food for me. Like I still feel hungry, but the moment I start eating 2300 calories, I'm putting on weight. Like even right, I haven't been able to get back, and this is me being my most vulnerable. Theoretically, I know what I have to do, but practically, I'm just not being able to get it done. Even if I lift, I eat less, I'm just hungry all the time, and if I'm hungry, I can't function. And if I feed myself to entirety, I just start putting on weight.
Yeah, like I'd have to look at the foods that you're eating, but you'd have to make sure that you're supporting the excess calories with weight training and some form of cardio on a daily basis, without a doubt.
And that's what is becoming unsustainable for me, because before all of this, I didn't have to do cardio every day. I could lift probably 4 times a week, or do cardio maybe once or twice, eat 2500 calories and live my life, and I was decently in shape too. And now I have to burn a certain number of calories each day to support the amount of food I want to eat, or I need to stay hungry.
Well, I think it's important to do cardio every day anyway. Like your heart is the most important muscle. So I do cardio once every day, if not twice. And I've done that for 20 odd years.
Wow. Wow.
Because it's very important.
That's
keep
so
moving.
great coming from a person like you, because a lot of young bodybuilders, they sort of get into this vibe that cardio is going to kill my muscle, and they just don't do cardio at all.
It enhances recovery, because you've got a better blood flow that goes to the localized area where you just trained, and it transports nutrients. So you're going to recover. Like if I hit legs, I'm not walking for 5 days, but if I
Yeah.
do cardio every day, 3 days later I'm fine.
Fair enough.
You know, so it
Fair enough.
helps you recover. So cardio every day, buddy.
Cool, cool.
Yeah.
But I'm going to get back with this to you. Like, I wanted to have a look at my entire day to sort of help me out here because I'm not being able to do it myself.
Sure, sure. Sometimes it's just, because you got a lot to work on.
Yeah.
You're doing a lot of things, and sometimes you just want somebody to take the guesswork out.
Yeah.
It's like, look, I've got decision-making fatigue. Let someone else figure that part out,
Yeah.
So one thing I know this is going to be popular with everybody, whether you're my demographic or not, because I get this question all the time. Is there anything that can be done for hair fall and number two, graying hair? Got a few of my beard coming through.
Not at all. I mean, nothing can be done. So, graying of hair, yes, there is this new product, which I don't know if it works or not.
Hair dye?
It's called Darkenil 2%. It's being sold by some companies in India. Research has been showing a little bit of recovery when it comes to graying of hair, but nothing very promising. Hair loss, on the other hand, unfortunately, nothing can be done. As long as you have testosterone in your body and you have. So, testosterone grows hair on every part of your body except for your scalp, because there are follicles which are very sensitive to DHT. And if genetically, the more number of follicles you have which are susceptible to DHT, you're going to lose hair. So, the stats show that 50% of men show signs of balding by the age of 50. And in a demographic like India, 70% of men show signs of balding by the age of 50. About 30% of men start balding at the age of 20. So a 20-year-old kid is also going to show signs of a receding hairline and things like that. And they just feel that, if I get my diet in order and if I do this and do that, it's going to grow back. But unfortunately, it's not, because as long as you have testosterone in your body, your hair is bound to fall. There is no magic pill. Yes, finasteride and 5-alpha reductase inhibitors and minoxidil is going to help, but the moment you stop taking it, it's going to go back to.
And that can have negative effects as well.
It could.
Okay.
So nobody's been able to really create the answer to male pattern baldness yet.
Okay, but the person who does is going to be a multi.
Oh, it's going to be a billionaire for sure.
Yeah. Interesting. I had something that pretty much scarred me when I was like 18 years old. My hairdresser said, with this receding hairline, you're going to be bald by the time you're 21. I was like, what? And I've had this receding hairline since, and I'm like, thank God it didn't move, One thing I wanted to ask you about is feet wings. What is feet wings?
So feet wings is like an interim name given to the blood glucose monitor. So about a year and a half ago, we thought that we'll deploy the blood glucose monitor in the form of socks for diabetics, because diabetics anyways are told to wear socks, but we realized that's not sustainable. So we've just converted the entire product. We still have to give a good name to the product, but it's essentially going to be a patch that you can apply at any part of your body. We might even come out with a ring. So it's a blood...
like an Oura ring sort of thing.
Yes, but effective.
Yeah.
Like right now, an Oura ring, what does it do? It says it monitors your sleep, your heart rate, and your activity level. But most of it is not really. In fact, fun fact: most of these calorie trackers, when they tell you the amount of calories you've burned, they're widely inaccurate. But the good part is that they're inaccurate to the same degree every single day, so you can sort of. Yeah, that's the good part. Now, what my product is doing is that I will effectively be able to create a monitor that, of course, for the diabetics, yes, I'll be able to tell you your blood glucose levels continuously, but the same technology is going to evolve to be able to give you a clear understanding of how many calories you consumed and how many calories you burnt. So imagine wearing a patch that at the end of 6 hours will tell you that the meal that you had 6 hours ago had these many carbs, these many proteins, and these many fats.
Wow.
And there is a company in America called Gobi. I don't know if you've heard about it.
No, I haven't.
They started about 10 years ago. They were way ahead of their time, but they've hit a few roadblocks, not being able to make it accurate, reproducible. But I think the technology we've devised will be able to do that. So imagine Chris Gethin wearing a watch that tells him 6 hours later that that was your macro split. And at the end of the day, telling you how many calories you actually burned. No room for errors at all. So that's what I've been creating. probably 6-7 months more should be out in the market, and that could be a game changer.
That sounds unbelievable.
Nobody needs to count their calories anymore. Nobody needs to wear a watch that you keep changing your modes, that I'm playing badminton now, so these the kind of calories I'm burning. Not at all.
Yeah,
At the end of the day, I will give you a report that today you burned 1700 calories, or today you actually burned 500 calories, because people overestimate the calories they burn all the time.
Yeah, that'd be phenomenal, because I am sure there's a lot of people there that look at that like 6 o'clock in the evening and go, wow,
Yeah.
I've got 500 calories left I can consume. Start
Exactly.
gobbling it down.
Exactly.
That's phenomenal. All right, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Can't wait to hear about that one coming out. Please keep me informed on that one.
Definitely.
But this has been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Same here. I mean, I think
know
I
that-
could talk to you all day, because I have so many questions for you. Because again, theoretically, I'm supposed to know everything, but practically, I just haven't spent those many years in the field as you have. So,
Well,
if
I'm
given
like
a
you-
chance,
like
I'm going to
you-
pick your brain over and over again. Then.
Well, I'm old, so I've had time to be around the block. But this is if you do you have a podcast? You should have
Not
one.
yet.
You
I
should have
will,
one.
I
You're
will,
a
I
great
will.
talker, and a lot of knowledge. And
Thank you.
Congratulations on everything that you've done so far and what you're going to continue to do. And your content online is absolutely
Thank you.
awesome. So where can people find you online?
It's pretty simple. All you got to do is get onto Instagram and type DrSid. I think I'm the only DrSid that'll pop on top. So just type DrSid, and the first name up there is me.
Great, and we'll put the links in the show notes
Absolutely.
for all the viewers and listeners to follow you with. But I highly recommend. But thank you ever so much, everybody, for listening in. This is the Chris Gethin podcast. Until next week, we are out. Thank you ever so much for listening. My name is Chris Gethin, and I am out.